Welcome to episode 186. Today on Book Chat, I am interviewing first-time author Janice Johnson. She'll be sharing with us her experience while writing her book, Deception and Lies, during November's NaNoWriMo. Today's episode is brought to you by the book Claretta Street by Colette Barris. I am pleased to share this book with you because this is the March Mocha Girls Read Book of the Month. Claretta Street, the first novel by Colette Barris, is the story of Pacomia, a bustling little town in the 60s located in the San Fernando Valley of Southern California. Claretta Street follows the lives of four young African-American girls known as the Babies, growing up in the vortex of the turbulent change of the 60s, then becoming young adults in the decadent and destructive 80s. Claretta Street takes the readers on a ride of unbelievable clarity and cause, as well as hope and change. Claretta Street is available on Amazon. Learn more by visiting mochagirlsread.com. Hey everyone, I am your host, Tamara Ford, and welcome to Book Chat here on the Shelf Addiction Podcast. If you're new here, welcome. Here on Book Chat, we get bookish with book roundtable discussions, book recommendation lists, author interviews, and more. If you'd like to check out more book reviews and other bookish posts, head on over to shelfaddiction.com. Now a bit about today's guest. Author Janice Johnson is a rehabilitation therapist with over 27 years of medical experience. Her real-world experiences lend itself to the factual details and anticipation of the storyline for her novel. She's also a military veteran and has a Master of Arts in Human Services degree. All of Janice's social media links are below in the show notes, so if you'd like to connect, you know where to find her. If you enjoyed today's episode, please like and share it. Show your support by rating the podcast and leaving a 5-star review of Shelf Addiction on your favorite podcast directory. It seems so simple, but it really helps me out. Don't forget to subscribe while you're there because a new episode comes out every Sunday and Wednesday. You can also find me on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at Shelf Addiction. If you'd like to email in feedback or questions, please do. Or call in and leave an internet voice message via SpeakPipe. I look forward to hearing from you. All of my contact information is below in the show notes. Hey, Janice. I'm so glad you're here to join me today. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing fine, thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. We actually have a warm spell right now in Michigan, so I'm loving it. But I know you have some interesting weather. You're in your neck of the woods, huh?
Yeah, we've been having thunderstorms for the past 2 or 3 days, which is kind of unusual for Texas. So we're having some cold weather as well, and that's also unusual because we generally have really nice weather year round. Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. Hopefully that will pass really quickly. So since you guys aren't used to that kind of thing.
Right. We're just kind of hanging in there, trying to make it work.
All right. Awesome. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk with me about NaNoWriMo and your book. I've always been interested in NaNoWriMo. I actually considered doing it a couple years ago, but chickened out. So I would love to hear about your experience. So let's start with, can you explain to us, because I know there are listeners that don't know what NaNoWriMo is. Can you kind of tell us what that is?
It's National November Writers Month, and it happens every year in November. And just to kind of tell you what happened to me, I'm an avid reader of books and magazines, and I just happened to be reading one of my magazines, and there was an article, I must have been in October, and there was an article, and it read, "Become the next J.K. Rowling, Nora Roberts, or Mary Higgins Clark." And I just thought, what is that? So I kind of read a little bit more about it. And the way it works is you're required to write 50,000 words within a month. And so if you can meet that challenge, you will get a little award and all that. And the way it starts out is they tell you, don't be concerned about formatting or anything like that. All they want you to do is just write. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, okay, my dream has always been to write a book, and I think maybe I'll just do this. And so I started the 1st of November and was able to meet that challenge actually before the end of November. And I was just really impressed because it was something I wanted to do anyways.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's super exciting because I know when I was looking into NaNoWriMo, I kind of got hung up on, wow, that's a big commitment because people have to write every day to meet that goal usually, unless, you're doing writing full time and you don't have a full time job.
Right.
So I don't know what situation you had when you started that challenge, but what kind of made you feel like this is totally doable? I can do this. It's a lot of words, but I can make it happen.
Well, I don't know. I've always been a pretty good writer, and what I decided to do was, I took my lunch break and I would write. I would like take a sandwich or something to write, and I would just, eat at my desk and just write for like 30 minutes of my lunch break. And at the time, I was commuting an hour and a half, both ways, and as soon as I got home, I would do what needed to be done, and then I would just write for like 2 to 3 hours every night, and I'd write on the weekend. So pretty much every time I had an opportunity to get to my computer, I would just start writing.
Mm.
And so they encourage you, they send emails and they just tell you, write, write, write. Just don't be concerned about the formatting. And you can look on your computer as you're writing to see how many words you gained that particular day or whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
they're very, very supportive. And that's kind of what helped me, was the fact that you would get those attaboys and all that kind of stuff, throughout the week, just to kind of encourage you. And so for me, it was pretty easy.
Did you attend any of the local events? I know some cities have those.
No, I didn't. I just pretty much saw that article and just kept writing and reading my emails, getting encouraged. And I can't remember because it's been a few years now, but they do have local chapters, I believe, in each city or whatever, and they encourage you to join with other people. But because of my long commute and all that, I just didn't have a lot of extra time to do that.
Mm-hmm. So I've got to know this. So most people, like, sometimes they have an idea in the back of their head. If I were to write a book, I'd write about this.
Mm-hmm.
So did you already kind of have that going into it? Or did you kind of just say, okay, I'm going to write a book, and just came up with something on the spot?
Well, just to kind of back up a little bit, when I first started, the first day that I started writing, I actually started writing something else. And then I don't know what it was. I was probably maybe a couple of hours into it or whatever. And I thought, you know what? I need to go back and read the instructions again. And the instructions read that it could not be something that you're already working on. And I've written a lot of little short stories and things like that I've never done anything with. But
Mm-hmm.
I also wanted to write a medical book, and I started writing about that. And I went back and read the instructions, and it stated that it had to be a work of fiction. And I thought, oh no, now I've got to think of
Mm-hmm.
something else. So I just actually I sat down and I kind of closed my eyes and just kind of like, okay, just started writing about something. And for me, it just evolved.
Wow, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Because I gotta say, your plot seems really interesting. So once so like, how far into your process did you like kind of figure out, okay, I know what this book is going to be. I know what the characters are doing, or did they just kind of guide you on their own the whole way?
They did. And the names and things changed over time, and kind of the beginning of the book changed over time. But again, I'm a real avid reader, so I kind of maybe probably took a little bit from every author I've ever read. Like this author would kind of come on really strong in the beginning or whatever. And since I started writing, I've recognized that writing romance and all that, you've got to keep the readers interested, because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people will say, oh, romance, nah, I'm not into that or whatever. But I wanted to write something that I would enjoy reading. And so that's how I wrote. I just wrote something. Okay, I've got to make this interesting. I've got to make it, I've just got to make people want to read it. So I've got to add a little bit of medical drama and all of that in there, and just kind of keep people interested.
Oh, okay. So, do you have any advice for those? Like, NaNoWriMo obviously is far off now. It's some months away,
Right.
as it's in November. But, people can listen to this at any time. So
Right.
do you have any advice to those that may consider doing NaNoWriMo this year or next year or whatever year that will allow them to complete it like you did?
I would just, if you're interested in kind of meeting that challenge, I would be thinking of things. And as a writer, I've found whenever you get an inspiration or a thought or whatever, you just sit down and write. I keep a notebook with me at all times because I'm
Mm-hmm.
always having things pop in my head. And right now I have two more books I want to write, but I need to do the marketing on this book. So I'm just trying to do all these things at the same time. But my suggestion would be just carry a notebook around with you wherever you are. Leave it in your car or whatever. And when things come to you, just write them down. And you can pull it all together later because trust me, you will have the opportunity to read that book so many times, that you don't have to worry about, did I get it right or whatever. And when you have an editor helping you, it's a godsend. It really is.
Awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the actual product of NaNoWriMo, and that is Deception, Lies, and
Right.
Secrets. So what genre is this exactly?
It is romance and suspense.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about it, like high level.
Okay. Um, just to kind of give you just kind of a little excerpts without giving a lot of it away. Um, Two sets of identical twins marry, and both couples have daughters. So they are first cousins, and this is Camilla and Carmen. But they're almost identical in appearance because of their parents being identical twins. In fact, they look so much alike. They've been mistaken for twins many times in the past. So there's a situation that comes up with Carmen, and they decide to trade places. So they establish and kind of follow this elaborate ruse against this unsuspecting doctor who has his own secrets, as well as a psychopathic hillbilly who's follow, who's following his own path of revenge. And so what transpires is a weekend fraught with deception and secrets. And so
Okay.
the thought from the whole book is just the importance of honesty, the consequences of deceit, and the dangers of lying that becomes even clearer as you read kind of each spellbinding scene. So I kind of tried to make it very dramatic in some places, and there's a lot of drama that happens near the end of the book.
Okay, we all loved your drama. Okay, that's the best part of suspense novels is the drama.
Right.
So tell me, like, okay, you said it was romantic suspense. So how heavy is the romance?
Kind of heavy. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to write it so because I was really concerned about not making it trashy. And that was a real concern of mine because I know in this genre, especially with romance, you have a lot of elderly people reading as well. And so I tried to think about the mindset of, folks from all generations. And it's like, okay, if I was reading this book, how much romance would need to be in there. So there are some parts that are a little spicy. And I actually sent this book to my cousin and she said, oh, because I wanted to be sure that it definitely was not trashy, but it really was romantic. And she was like, oh no, bring this on. This is awesome, And she kept saying, she goes, is there a sequel to this? And I said, well, there could be, So there is some romance and it's almost like you're always kind of rooting for the underdog. And in this case, it would be Camilla, who is
Okay.
the person this is all happening to because she traded places because she had no idea all of this was going to be happening on this weekend. And so you're really kind of in there pulling for her, hoping she gets her guy and this kind of thing, because she hasn't always had, the best, she just haven't had kind of the best workings when it comes to romance and all that. And her cousin has had it all.
Okay, so you're like, oh, we really want this to work out
Yeah,
for Camilla so
yeah.
bad. Okay.
And they have similar professions. Carmen is a psychiatrist, and Camilla is a behavioral therapist. So they kind of have similar backgrounds. So
Hmm.
a lot of the happenings near the end has to do with a lot of behavioral issues and that type of things, which I think is very interesting. And of course, being a medical person, I just feel that it's pretty interesting. But I also wanted to bring something into it that's a little unusual. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff about DNA and all this, and because of the way because of what happened to this couple, the two sets of twins marrying and all that, there's a lot of DNA stuff that makes it more factual than most people might think. And the
Yeah.
fact that these type of marriages are called quaternary marriages, a lot of people had never really heard about that, and so I wanted to kind of delve off into that just a little bit, because there are only 200 and about 250 sets of identical twins who's married each other. So
That is so
it
unusual.
is.
Yeah, that's super like unique. And because of that uniqueness and having to write about Camila and Carmen kind of looking alike with similar jobs, how did you struggle to keep them with their own identities like on the page? Like, cause sometimes when you read about similar characters with same jobs and things like that, it kind of gets murky. How did you keep them unique so the reader didn't get confused?
Well, pretty much because a psychiatrist is an MD, and they specialize in mental health, including like substance abuse and different type of disorders and things like that. And they're qualified to assess mental and physical aspects of things that are happening. Whereas Camilla, who's a behavior therapist, and she's a behavior and family therapist. And so
Okay.
she also works with mental health disorders, but a lot of her work has to do with unhealthy and destructive behaviors. So it kind of wasn't hard to keep it separated, because I've been in the field for so long. It just wasn't hard for me to keep them separated,
Okay.
because I kind of knew what the boundaries were.
Are their personalities very different as well?
Yes, and that's what I feel make the book very interesting, because Carmen is I mean, they look similar in appearance, but Carmen is very outgoing. She just exudes sexiness. I mean, she walks into the room and she commands attention, that sort of thing. And then Camilla, who's very similar, she's not just kind of, I mean, when it comes to her abilities as a therapist, I mean, she's spot on. She knows what's what. But when it comes to relationships and all that, she's a little bit shy and all that, and kind of unsure of herself, and maybe had some baggage from other relationships and that kind of thing, which I delve in just a little bit in the book. So it's almost like, Carmen has always had it all. Now it's Camilla's turn. So you just kind of find yourself, okay, this has got to work. This has got to work.
Yeah. Okay, so since this is a romance, I've got to know a little bit about the hero. What kind of hero is he? Is he like an alpha male, or what kind of hero is this guy?
Um, he's a doctor who's kind of laid back, hasn't actually been that successful with relationships and that type of thing. So he's kind of at that point where he's kind of looking for romance also, and so believing that she is Carmen, he's pretty excited, because first
Yeah.
impressions was, oh man, this lady is a knockout. I've just got to know more about her. So I mean, he's an honest, hardworking kind of guy, but because of his own secrets and things from his past, he hasn't been very successful even with his career as of late, because of things that happen. And I delve a lot
Hmm.
in that in the book.
Okay. Well, what do you like the most about the characters that you've developed for this book?
The fact that in the end, it's very interesting how it all kind of comes together, and we talk about a lot of honesty and just as I mentioned earlier about the consequences of deceit and all that, because that also, I mean, that can just happen to people. Is like, when you want something really bad, you lie a little bit or whatever, but it also kind of shows you how all of this can come back around, and there are consequences for every action.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. That sounds really interesting to me. It really does. Like, I have been known to read a romantic suspense book here and there, but
Hmm.
I really love all the unique, things about this book, especially, I'm not a doctor, but I do love medical dramas. Like, I just got
Right.
finished reading one, and who
Right.
doesn't love Grey's Anatomy, right? So we all love, some medicine with our drama. So that's
Right.
very cool.
And I think because being a rehabilitation therapist for so many years, the medical part was kind of easy for me to write about. And I write about things that are factual, that I know, that have been in near my practice or whatever. And also, I do a lot of research and all that. So I know all the information is very factual. And anybody reading that, it might touch on some things that may have happened to someone or someone in your family. Um, I didn't really talk about it earlier, but I've worked in rehab for over 27 years, and so I've worked with a lot of traumatic brain injury patients,
Mm-hmm.
PTSD, and a lot of those clients had behavioral issues and things like that. So I kind of pull from a lot of different things that have happened in my background, and kind of put that, in the book to make it interesting.
Okay. So now that Deception, Lies, and Secrets has been out for a while, are you going to carry on with Camila and Carmen's story, or was this a standalone story?
I'm not sure. It can, I think, I believe there could be a sequel. I've been kind of tossing that around, but again, I do want to write the medical book that I'm interested in writing. And I just kind of have another storyline in my head that I really, really want to start working on.
Another fiction title?
Yes, yes.
Oh,
And kind of,
awesome.
yeah, not and pretty much all suspense in this one.
Okay. All right, cool. Because I love a good villain. I got to say, a good
Yes.
villain is the bomb. It's so fun to read a good villain.
Right, right. And even in this book, I mean, the villain who is this hillbilly, and I wrote it because, I can relate to a Texas hillbilly, having lived here for a long time, and I just wanted to make this guy so believable, so some of the names even in the books, will just make you laugh. One minute you're kind of laughing, the next minute you're pulling for Camilla, and then the next minute you're just like, "Oh my God, what's going to happen?" So I tried to really keep the suspense throughout.
Okay, that's good to know because I love it. Bring the drama, bring it
Okay.
on.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much, Janice, for talking with us today. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Everyone, the links below are where you can pick up a copy of Deception, Lies, and Secrets. So it's available on Amazon. And I will also have links to Janice's social media. So if you'd like to find her and connect, you will know where to find her. Janice, is there anything else you'd like to share before we sign off for the evening?
No, I think I've pretty much covered everything. Again, I really wanted to make the book believable. I wanted to make it interesting and kind of educate people on maybe some things they didn't know about, like the quaternary marriages and that kind of thing. And as far as what I found that was really interesting, and people may not find it so, but I thought so, when you have identical twins marrying each other, they all have the same DNA. So
Mm-hmm.
pretty much, I mean, it doesn't happen that often, but it does happen. And the fact that if, let's just say that, if paternity was a question or something like that, it was an issue on something like this, it would be hard to determine who the mother of that person was because they all have DNA, the same DNA, and pretty much
Yeah.
it's like a DNA soup. I mean, they have
Oh,
the same DNA; they're first cousins, but the DNA will show that they're almost sisters. So I just found that really, really very interesting, and a lot of people may not, but it's believable for a set of twins to marry each other and actually have children that look like identical twins.
yeah, I can believe it. I mean, especially if twins are somewhat alike and they kind of have similar taste. I mean, it's
Right.
possible they could gravitate toward another set of twins by accident. It's totally
Exactly.
possible. Yeah.
Exactly. So I just hope that I hope folks find it interesting. My dream is always has always been I want to be a New York Times best-selling artist. That's my dream. It's always been my dream. So I don't know if this one will make it or not, but I'm going to keep trying. And actually, one of the things that we had talked about in the email is that you had asked me why I chose to go the self-publishing route
Mm-hmm.
instead of going with one of the big publishers. I
Yeah.
actually sent my book to one publisher and they thought it was really good, but it wasn't what the response that I received was. It wasn't what they were looking for at that time. But she encouraged me to go ahead and keep writing and all that. So that was my reason for self publishing. I wanted to just go ahead and get it out there because I want to write more books and I just don't, it may happen, after the fifth or sixth or seventh time, but I just kind of didn't want to wait that long. I just wanted to get it out there. So it's been out there since September now, and I just hope people will like it.
I hope so too, and I wish you luck. And thank you so much again for coming on today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much.
If you enjoyed today's book chat episode and would like to show your support, there are a few things you can do. Head on over to Apple Podcast and leave a positive 5-star review. You can follow me on Twitter at Shelf Addiction. Most importantly, you can share this podcast with friends and family that enjoy all things bookish, including author interviews. Thank you for listening, and until next time, happy reading.